Hola camaradas, bienvenidos a un nuevo episodio de Parias Podcast. Hoy tenemos con nosotros a un camarada americano de los Estados Unidos que nos va a hablar de cómo es el ser comunista en el país del anticomunismo por excelencia y si existe movimiento obrero, movimiento de izquierda y movimientos comunistas dentro del país y cómo sobreviven en ese ambiente. Welcome, Alex Dillard. Let's start with the interview.
Yes.
En primer lugar, ¿cuál es la situación de la izquierda en Estados Unidos, la cuna del anticomunismo y el capitalismo más salvaje actualmente, bueno, históricamente? What is the situation of the left in the USA, the cradle of anti-communism and the most savage capitalism today country?
So I think the left is not in a good spot. It never has been. But I actually think it's worse now than it's ever been before. And that is because for a long time in America, you used to have a strong communist party. Like back in the 1930s and 40s with Earl Browder, you had a strong communist party. In the 1910s, you had Eugene Debs and the Socialist Party. And even in the 1960s, you had like a resurgence of like the new left and of socialism and stuff with the Students for a Democratic Society. And we had the Black Panthers in the 70s. But we don't have any equivalent to any of those things today. And all we have are two types of groups. We have the reformist, like FBI controlled left, that being like the DSA, the CPUSA. But then we also have like ultra leftist sects from the 1960s and 70s that have like 10 or 20 members that are like left over from those periods and don't recruit any young people. So it's like pick your poison. It's either like new left, like boomer sects, right? Or it's the reformist left that's like connected to the Democratic Party. So that's like CPUSA, DSA, those sort of groups. And I do think that there is hope. I do think that there is a possibility to turn it all around. There are organizations, not just mine, but there are plenty of others who do oppose both of these trends on the left. And you are starting to see, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, a resurgence of like genuine Marxism Leninism in the United States. And that's like completely separated from like the new left Maoism of the 60s, which obviously the new left Maoism isn't really Marxism Leninism, but we are seeing like a real resurgence of Marxism Leninism in the United States.
Vamos con la segunda pregunta. ¿Cuáles son los principales partidos políticos revolucionarios en Estados Unidos y su situación legal? The second question is, what are the main revolutionary political parties in the country and their legal status?
So the main revolutionary parties in this country. First of all, I don't like the framing of revolutionary because a lot of the ultra left use the term revolutionary and they love to outcompete to see who is more revolutionary than another. But if you're asking like or communist organizations are in America, first of all, obviously I'm going to say my own, like everyone would. Mine is the Party of Communists USA, which is not the Communist Party USA. It is the Party of Communists USA. But there's also another one called Center for Political Innovation, which is a group ran by a guy named Caleb Maupin, which I don't even agree with everything he has to say. And there are some things like obviously he rejects Marxism, Leninism. He believes in socialism of the 21st century, but like they are genuine anti-imperialists. Which like there are very few genuine anti-imperialists in the United States on the left, and you do have a few other groups. So.
¿Qué vías se utilizan por parte de estos partidos para llegar a influir en una sociedad apoderada de la mayor propaganda anticomunista por parte de todos los medios? What ways are these parties used to influence in a society empowered by the anti-communist propaganda?
So I think there's not much influence we can have at the moment. First of all, we have a two-party system, as everyone is aware. But like, with it's pretty impossible to influence that two-party system, because like one of those parties, the Republican Party, is outright like anti-communist, and the other one is also outright anti-communist, but they sometimes pretend to be leftist, depending on where they are. So it's like there's not really much you can do as a communist in the U.S. as far as broader society is concerned. But we do try, and what we do is that we try to build big coalitions on issues that we agree with. We were part of a thing called Rage Against the War Machine, which was an anti-war coalition that included both left-wing forces, but also right-wing forces. Right-wing as in the libertarians, certain Republicans, certain independent conservative types, etc. And our whole purpose is that we believe that you're not going to get people to communism in America unless there's like some sort of mass struggle that eventually radicalizes people. There's never been a successful communist organization in America, or even a socialist organization, that succeeded without like a mass struggle attached to it. Remember, the Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA, they were tiny until Bernie Sanders. Like before Bernie Sanders, they only had like 1,000 members. Now they have 100,000. So it's like no organization, no matter how reformist or revolutionary, no organization is going to grow, right? Unless you have.
¿Existe alguna posibilidad dentro de este sistema electoral injusto, en mi opinión, muy poco democrático, bipartidista, que favorece siempre a dos partidos que son reaccionarios, solo cambia el maquillaje de ciertas medidas, pero en el fondo de los asuntos hacen las mismas políticas? Is there any possibility within the unfair and two-party electoral system that favors two right-wing and reactionary parties?
I think it is possible, but there has to be a real effort, and it's a big uphill push, but I think it's possible. But first, is in my personal view, not necessarily my party's view, but is in my personal view, that you're not going to get a direct communist party like elected. Like you're not going to get a communist party ever elected anywhere, not even at like the city level in America. But what will happen is that the Communist Party will be a part of a populist party that will get elected as like the main third political force in America. So I think the road forward, there's a group we work with in America, the Party of Communists. There's a group we work with called the People's Party, and they're basically like a populist sort of party. And we try to have good relations with all the populist political parties in America, because we believe those populist organizations are going to eventually be like, they're going to be like the mass wing of our struggle.
A nivel sindical, ¿dónde se agrupan los trabajadores y dónde incidís desde vuestras escasas opciones? At the trade union level, where do the workers group and where do you influence your options?
Repeat that.
At the trade union
I know
level,
so
where do the workers group and where do you influence in that spaces of socialization by the workers?
So at the union level, I think we do have a labor organization that we use inside the unions called Labor United Educational League, and it has a newspaper that's online called Labor Today. You can search that up. But we do try to influence the unions. We can't, obviously, we don't have, like, we're not in Europe, we're in America, so we don't have red unions, and it's impossible. It's illegal to form red unions. So what we do is that we just work within, like, the mainstream trade unions. And usually nothing really happens as a result. Every now and then we're successful in like recruiting people from the mainstream unions. But the union movement in America is so small that like it's not really worth engaging in most of the time, unless it's like there's a difference. Look, we support the Amazon labor union and we engage in like grassroots like unionization efforts, but we're not going to waste our time trying to recruit people. And if we can recruit them, like that's good, but we're not going to waste our time like trying to recruit people in builders trades and in like the more like reactionary craft unions.
Eh, a nivel de política exterior es conocido la brutalidad imperialista de Estados Unidos respecto al mundo, considerándolo su colonia. ¿Qué opinión tienen del imperialismo brutal y feroz que realiza su país alrededor del mundo? What is your opinion of the brutal and ferocious imperialism carried out by your country around the world?
So obviously we oppose American imperialism. Like we would not be communists if we did not oppose US imperialism. Like I said, our main priority at this moment is the abolition of NATO, is the reining in of US imperialism. In fact, we believe that there literally will not be a strong labor movement until American imperialism has been defeated. So that's why we focus on like anti-imperialist work. Because like you're not going to have a labor movement when like America has all of its factories overseas. You need to rein in globalization. It needs to rein in NATO. You need to rein in all those other things. Because there is no like you have to understand something. And this is what even a lot of obviously no American communist understands this. But even like a lot of European communists don't understand this. Like you're not going to have socialism, or even a labor movement until globalization is dealt with. Like if all the factories are overseas and like all the production is being done outside of your country, you're not going to have a strong labor movement. So communists should agitate, right? Should agitate to rein in globalism and have some sort of like like there needs to be like a reindustrialization of the US before any sort of labor movement can occur. Because right now the only labor movement we have is the service industry. And yes, while we do support service workers unionizing, the service industry going on strike is nowhere near as impactful as like let's say a coal miner or a railroad worker or an Amazon worker, right? Like that, like the service industry, like they want us to work service jobs just because if we're all working service jobs, striking is nowhere near as impactful or meaningful as working like an actual industrial job, which is why they want to destroy the industrial jobs. But because of the current global crisis between America and China, America might be forced to like rein in some of their own globalization. And he would. Because once you have industry back in America, the service industry no longer matters as much for unionization efforts. And yeah, we're still going to support unionization efforts, even like when reindustrialization has occurred in the service industry. But we really need to I think you're a member of the Communist Party of Spain, right?
Yes.
So what I pose to you and what I pose to your party is how cannot be like unity there cannot be unity with pro-imperialist soc dems or social democrats. Working with social democrats is fine as long as those social democrats oppose imperialism. Like what we do in this country is we do work with social democrats. Like I mentioned, we're working with the People's Party. And we even sometimes, not always, but sometimes work with the Green Party, depending on who's running. And we do this because the difference between like a Green Party or a People's Party versus like the Democratic Socialists is that like the Greens and the People's Party genuinely like want to rein in like American imperialism. Toward the DSA, they want to expand US imperialism. They just want to have Medicare for all with it. And by the way, the DSA, you'll probably ask about it later, but the DSA haven't even gotten us Medicare for all. So it's like What I tell you, your viewers, and everyone else, do not trust American leftism. Do not trust any American leftist influence in your organization, in the broader Spanish left. I know for a fact, I've been to Spain before. I know for a fact, and I've met with leftist groups in Spain. I know for a fact there are certain groups in Spain that are on the left, especially, well, your group too, depending on where you go. But like, and there are good people in the PCE, I'm not denying that. But like, I just want to point out that for the people who are in the PCE, you need to be really careful of any sort of American leftist influence. The last thing you want to copy is American leftism. And you know exactly. Let's go on to the next question.
¿Cómo es la realidad de la vida cotidiana de los trabajadores en Estados Unidos lejos de la propaganda que nos vende Hollywood? What is the reality of life of the workers in America, like away from Hollywood propaganda?
Simple. Lots of homelessness, lots of poverty, lots of disparity. It's not, how do I put this? It's not good what's going on in America. And a lot of people from your country, I don't think it's as much in your country because you guys have that strong welfare state, but a lot of people from like Eastern Europe, especially Africa and Latin America, they come to America thinking that like America is like thinking that America is like the best thing in the world, and that like they watch like the CIA, they have this program, right, where they broadcast any sort of, what they do is that they broadcast propaganda into, like they broadcast American Hollywood movies into Europe, and especially in the Muslim countries. They do it a lot in Muslim countries. And then what they do is that they say, come to America. We have a much better, higher quality of living. We have all these things. We have unlimited access to everything. Your Muslim countries or European countries, those are square countries. We have everything. So then when you come to America, at first you might be like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of wealth, but also there's a lot of poverty. And the whole purpose of it is to make you think that when you enter America, that there is some prosperity. There is no prosperity here. If you, like, I understand people like, oh, I'm going to find a job. Yeah, you might find a job in America. First of all, you probably won't. But let's say you do, right? You're going to always be at the bottom. If you're an immigrant, you're always going to be at the bottom for the rest of your life. You're going to always be someone else's bitch. You're always going to be doing someone else's work. And for everyone who lives in Spain, do not come to America. It's not worth your time. It's not worth your energy. And it's not worth those years. You'll waste so many years of your life and you'll never make it to the top. Very, very few people do. And if you do make it to the top, that means you've probably sold your soul in some ways. And people who do make it to the top who are immigrants, a lot of them are forced to like cut out their family because America's system is truly individualistic. We don't like people look at the CIA and the FBI. People in Europe have this perception that America is like this super conservative country. Economically, yeah, it's super like conservative, but like culturally, America might be the most liberal country culturally anywhere. Like there, besides maybe Canada, like no country allows this much degeneracy culturally besides America and Canada. And when you go to America, any sort of like culture or traditions you believe in, you're expected to throw that away and you're expected to conform. And if you don't conform, they take away your bank account, they silence you, they censor you. That's what they do here. And in all honesty, do not come here unless you have to, right? Like if you have to, fine, but do not come here expecting anything great. And if you came here, I'm from California. If you came to Oakland, where I'm from, or I'm not from Oakland, but I'm like San Jose. If you came to San Jose or Oakland or San Francisco or especially Los Angeles, come anywhere to California, just go to like any downtown area, right? And you'll see like miles of tents. There is no place like whatever. Look, you can be as critical of Europe as you want or European welfare states, and I am too. But like, you will never find any. Look, let me just put it this way: the poorest town in Spain has less homelessness than my own town in California. That's how bad it is. So lots of homelessness, lots of poverty, and most people don't even make it in life. And housing is super hard to get. You know, my house that I'm living in, right? It's not even my house. It's being leased to me and my family. And we have to all pay it together, but it's a very tiny house. By tiny, I mean like 3 or 4 rooms. And like we're paying millions for it. That's how expensive housing is in America. And like this is millions over the course of like 20 or 30 years. But and we still don't own it. The bank owns it. The bank owns most, like they don't want you to own homes. They try to get you to be a rentoid or a renter. And they try to make it so that you're always on someone else's rent. You're always like stuck on someone else's property. So that if you do any political activism, they can just kick you off your own property because it's not yours. So it's like, and also not to mention that if you're an immigrant, they're probably going to kick you out. By the way, there's a rule where if you're a member of any communist party, they have to deny you to coming. Like they have to deny you coming into this country by default if you're a member of any communist party, including like a ruling party, right? So that's what I'm going to say. If you're a member, like assuming your listeners, right, are a member of the Communist Party of Spain, and knowing you are as well, you would automatically be denied entry into America just on that basis alone.
Y para terminar, ¿cuál es tu opinión de Bernie Sanders, que parece lo más a la izquierda visible en los Estados Unidos? What do you think of Bernie Sanders? Is the most view of the left in America right now?
So I have a more nuanced view of Bernie Sanders. I don't think he's all bad. I don't think he's all good. I think he was good. Bernie, look, this is my view. Bernie as an actual politician is not good. But Bernie as like the icon of a movement is good. Like I like Bernie as like the icon of a movement because Bernie did inspire a lot of young people and a lot of working class people. And he is like the symbol of like a modern labor movement in America. So it's like as a symbol, I appreciate Bernie Sanders, but not as like an actual politician.
Okay, pues terminamos. Thank you for this time for us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this.
Pues y a ustedes, muchísimas gracias por estar una vez más ahí. Nos vemos en el próximo programa. Hasta luego.